Ladies and gentlemen, it's Ashton and welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be dedicated for those hybrid athletes that are looking to transition or learn a little bit more about the CrossFit world, whether they're dabbling inside of Hyrox, whether they're dabbling as an endurance athlete, and they want to just transform the way that they train, bring some new training principles in, and therefore I'm going to share with you 5 tips that you can incorporate into your training to bring more CrossFit specific training to your hybrid athlete lifestyle. The reason why I want to share this video with you guys is that I have, as a hybrid athlete, been dabbling inside of the Hyrox community, and I've seen that there are a lot of Hyrox athletes that are looking to either transition or bring some new training principles into their lifestyle. And therefore I wanted to share with you guys some principles, some tips that you can incorporate into your daily training routine, either if you are looking to bring new training principles, if you're feeling a little bit stuck, a plateau in your training for Hyrox, or you want to transition into being more of a hybrid athlete, moving away from Hyrox and also bringing some CrossFit specific training into your training program. And therefore I'm creating this video to share with you guys some of the principles that I've used as a hybrid athlete inside of Hyrox and moving into a more specific CrossFit training block. Tip number 1, improve your skills in both gymnastics and weightlifting. The biggest difference between competing as a hybrid athlete or a Hyrox athlete is the fact that you do not have the skill capability of a CrossFit athlete. And that is going to be your number 1 point that you're going to need to focus on, the area that you will need to work the most on in order to transition from either a hybrid or a Hyrox athlete. A hybrid athlete meaning someone who is in endurance, in running, in cycling, and not training with inside of the gym doing skill and weightlifting skill movements. So this is going to be your number 1 focus, being able to learn the CrossFit specific movements like ring muscle ups, bar muscle ups, double unders, and all of these movements that you'll need to learn under fatigue as well is going to be the most important thing. The second thing here that you need to understand is that skill doesn't always just mean gymnastics. Skill can also mean weightlifting, and weightlifting is in fact a skill. So many people will think that weightlifting is related to strength. Yes, it is a strength that you will need to bring into your training, but weightlifting is a skill because you need to learn how to manage the bar, good positioning of the body, and this is going to be the 2 areas within skill that you will need to work on the most. Point number 2, increase your strength. Now, I bet some of my Hyrox folks that are watching this video are saying, well, I'm strong, I do strength-based training activities, and yes, I will agree with you. There is an element of strength that is incorporated into Hyrox, but the biggest difference between Hyrox strength and CrossFit strength is the fact that you will need to incorporate high strength movements under skill and also under fatigue. And I know that you might be doing that in Hyrox under fatigue, but it is completely different when you add that element of skill to it. So if you look at the differences of endurance training or how you factor your training between endurance and strength as a Hyrox athlete, you will definitely be more on the endurance, running, cardiovascular ability, and your strength will be a little bit down here. Whereas in CrossFit, you need to balance this slightly differently, or not slightly differently, actually a lot differently, where you need to bring up your strength level to a very high maximum point as much as you possibly can, and then also balance the cardiovascular activity and skill on the other side. So you need to be able to focus on building strength, having to manage that strength under skill and fatigue. Tip number 3 is increase training intensity. Now, as a Hyrox athlete, no doubt, you're also doing intense training sessions where you do your track sessions for running, your 400s, or you're inside of the gym doing a short 15 to 20 minute AMRAP. But majority of your training is spent in the lengthier cardiovascular endurance training blocks. So basically, as a CrossFit athlete, simply looking at the duration of a normal CrossFit event between anywhere from 8 minutes to 15 to 20 minutes probably max, this means that your training is going to be a lot more intense. So the intensity of your training will increase versus what you are doing in Hyrox when you're doing more cardiovascular endurance style training. So to give you a practical example of this in the real life is, I know that as a Hyrox athlete, majority of training sessions you would be doing something like a 50-minute AMRAP where you move between running, sled push, burpees and some wall balls for instance, and you know, you're doing this at like a low to moderate intensity, whereas if you're doing a CrossFit specific workout where you want to improve your metabolic conditioning, you would be looking at doing something like a 4-minute AMRAP where you move through multiple movements in a short period of time, followed by a short break and then a repeat of that 4-minute AMRAP. Really work intensely in those 4 minutes and then take a short break. So that's the kind of difference between intensity that you would work at between training for CrossFit and training for Hyrox. Tip number 4 is incorporate smart training principles. Now what I mean by this is, if you look at Hyrox, there are only a specific handful of movements that you need to be good at. Running, obviously one of them. Sled push and pull. Then you need to be able to do your lunges, your burpees, your wall balls efficiently and effectively. And with that, you know, you only have a handful of movements that you need to be really good at, which means you can be very specific in your training towards those, and you have enough time during the week to touch base on all of those movements. If you look at CrossFit, there are so many different movements out there, and that's actually why I truly believe that CrossFit is more of a hybrid approach than Hyrox. But to get more specific to the point, as a CrossFit athlete, having so many different movements, you know, from monostructural conditioning, you have different movements, assault bike, running, bike erg, ski erg, rower, that's just in monostructural conditioning. Then if you look at your gymnastics, you have, you know, your toe to bars, your ring muscle ups, your bar muscle ups, you have your burpees, you have your burpee box jump overs, you have your double unders. So as you can see, just by naming those two modalities of training, you have so many different movements that you need to be able to touch base on to improve yourself. So incorporating smart training principles means that you create a training program that makes sure that you touch base on all of these elements on a frequent basis so that you can keep up your strength, your gymnastics, and your monostructural capabilities. Tip number 5, prepare for the unknown. This is probably one of the things that people underestimate the most when it comes to CrossFit, is that on the day, you do not know what is going to come your way. They oftentimes release the workouts maybe that morning or sometimes the night before. But again, going back to the point that we had just discussed in point number 4, there are so many different modalities that they will be throwing your way. You will not also only be doing one workout that day, you will be doing normally 3 workouts over a period of 2 days, which is 6 workouts. And you know, in those 6 workouts, they could be throwing anything from a 3-minute workout where you go full out to a marathon row that we saw at the CrossFit Games a couple of years ago. So you do not know what is going to come your way, and you need to be able to be prepared for anything. Whereas when you are competing for Hyrox, you know exactly what is coming your way. There's going to be your 8 stations, your 8 kilometers in running, and you can prepare yourself in training very specifically for that. So there you have it. Those are my 5 tips that I can share with you as a hybrid athlete that is looking to transition from Hyrox to transition across to CrossFit. I hope you guys found this helpful. If you're looking for more information on training programs for either Hyrox, for CrossFit, or for any other hybrid specific trainings, please reach out to me. Feel free to message me on Instagram, or you can drop me an email at ashton@omnivana.com. And just before you go, Archie just reminded me, if you guys enjoyed this video or you enjoyed some of our previous videos and you like this content, please make sure that you like and subscribe to this channel. Write us down below in the comments if there's anything else that you want to see, whether you agree with these principles, if you not agree with these principles. I'm here to chat with you guys about it. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Make sure that you tune into the next video coming next week.